I had several jobs. My first job was in photo interpretation, whereby we gathered photography about the enemy, analyzed it, and then sent reports out to the field to help those who were really doing the combat fighting. Also, I was the headquarters company commander for our battalion, and I was responsible for housing and feeding and the whereabouts of all the soldiers in the battalion. And the third thing, I was a briefing officer for the Army with the Air Force, who flew reconnaissance missions over North Vietnam. I wasn't angry. I felt a sense of pride for me going because I had already been out of the Army for a year. And I volunteered to go back when Vietnam came. As for those who didn't want to go, again, I had no anger or revulsion. I had a lot of sadness, I would say, because of what they had done, knowing that someday that idea of them not serving might haunt them. When it was okay to protest and nobody got injured, that was fine. But what did upset me is that I believe there were 4 or 5 students who were killed at Kent State University by the Army National Guard when they were protesting. And as we all know, everybody has a right to protest peaceably. So I did feel badly for those kids that were killed. Those that went to Canada, well, I thought that someday they would regret they did so. Well, when I got home, I didn't teach school right away. But when I did, I found out there was a lot of anti-Vietnam sentiment in kids who were in high school. One example I can remember, one kid wore a pair of dungarees to school with the American flag sewn across his butt as a protest. But since we did have the draft, and they knew they were subject to the draft, I felt badly for the fact that they had to show their lack of patriotism so much. It didn't change me. I was never anti-war in Vietnam, but just the whole idea of going to war, leaving your family, it bothered me. No, not really. I think my mom and dad were happy to see me, my sister, and basically my friends. But I was happy to be home. I wouldn't say I enjoyed doing what I thought was right at the time. Oh, I'm sure I would have gone. There's no doubt about that. Years later, when I thought about it, my opinion, there was protest in my opinion, but that was long after I had been gone, because if I had been drafted, I certainly would have gone. The war started through a supposed fallacy that an American ship was attacked in the waters off North Vietnam. And because that came back and the news was made of it, the United States government began drafting so many to build up an army to go there. And what did we achieve? We wanted to keep the communist North Vietnam out of South Vietnam. Without our help in soldiering from the Americans, North Vietnam would have gotten control of the entire country of South Vietnam. And supposedly that would have been a bad thing because Vietnam produced a lot of rice for the peoples of Asia. Had that come into control of the communists, it might have given them some leverage and power to influence other countries in the area. Yeah, it was a war of choice, as it turned out to be, not a war of necessity. Just like Iraq was a war of choice and not out of necessity. When we were looking for Osama bin Laden, he was supposed to have been in Afghanistan and in Pakistan where he was, but Vietnam did not have to happen. It was those who were in control of our government that somewhat told half-truths to tell the American public we had a reason to go. And as it turned out, there's always been a lot of question as to what those what those reasons meant. And it wasn't always, the government was not always playing fair with the American public.